Hi there, my name is Riley Mann with the National Sports Media Association, and joined here by me today is Noah Cierzan, the Vermont 2023 Sportscaster of the Year. How are you doing today, Noah?
I'm doing great, Riley. Thanks for reaching out. I'm happy to chat. And
Awesome.
yeah, things are going well. Just got done with March Madness. That's kind of the time frame of this right now. So
Awesome.
it's
What
been
was that
a
like?
little hectic period. It's always a blast. I mean, I grew up on college basketball. I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, so grew up going to University of Minnesota games literally since I was an infant. Um, so getting to go to an event like that is cool personally, but it's also cool to interact with all these different media outlets from around the entire country. Like I was in Brooklyn with the University of Vermont, and we had outlets from Southwest Florida, we had outlets from Winston Salem, we had outlets from the Chicago area for Northwestern. UConn was there as well. So it's kind of cool to get to interact and see people from all across the country for this big event.
That's super cool. Super, super cool. Can you give us a little brief background of what your kind of daily schedule looks like and what you're doing right now in the world of sports?
Yeah. So right now I'm the weekday sports anchor at NBC5, which is the Hearst affiliate located in South Burlington, Vermont, covering Vermont, Northern New York, and also actually a little sliver of New Hampshire as well. So on a day to day, honestly, it kind of varies quite a bit. Um, at this point in the year, really the school year, a lot of our focus is on the University of Vermont. So, like yesterday, the University of Vermont women's basketball team played in the WNIT. So it was coming in, preparing, sound and video for live shots before the game, going to the game, grabbing highlights, grabbing sound, and putting that all together for our sports desk at 11. But it can also vary quite a bit. Like on non-game days, there might be other media, and those are also opportunities to shoot feature stories, which is something that I've enjoyed quite a bit, and kind of getting to able to talk to different, high school athletes or sometimes just completely amateur athletes as well about their sports stories. So day to day, honestly, varies quite a bit. But I would say it usually starts with some sort of either media with the University of Vermont, a story that's set up, and then goes into some of the game coverage for the night.
Super interesting. Thank you. So you said that you're a sports anchor for NBC. Can you share with us what it's like been working for such a profound sports channel at such a young age?
Yeah, it's I consider myself to be very lucky.
Mhm.
Being able to work here uh at NBC5 in Burlington, it's something that I always dreamed of, having this sort of opportunity when I was, getting into sports broadcasting. The first experience I ever had in front of a camera, I attended a national student or NSMA association uh, camp in Washington, D.C., going into my senior year of high school. And I had the opportunity to do a couple things. Uh, and it was there that I was like, I really want to pursue this. I really want to do this, but learned very quickly that it's not easy. This is not an easy business to break into. Um, there are a lot of people that have helped me along the way, a lot of people that are continuing to help me that I'm very grateful for. So, it's sometimes in the hecticness of, what's been like a busy period recently, it's so work, work, work. But when you take a step back, I do realize how lucky I am to have this opportunity and to be able to do this. And um, it's it's through a lot of hard work, and a lot of learning. That's been really been my key, especially at this age. Broadcasters never stop learning. Broadcasters never stop getting better, um, and that is even more essential when you're you know, in the front nine of your career, because that's really where you're establishing yourself, kind of showing people who you are, what you are about. And so that's what I've been trying to do here, not only here at NBC5, while I've been the weekday sports anchor, but all the way back to when I was in school and first starting to do this as a student.
That's awesome. Thank you. Can you share with us a standout moment or broadcast from the past year that you believed played a significant role in earning you this award?
Oof, that's a tough one. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite because we do so many unique things. So like I mentioned, like our March Madness coverage, I would like to think that we did a really good job with both this year in Brooklyn and then dating back to last year, University of Vermont was in Columbus, Ohio. So both of those were like extremely cool experiences, and I thought that our station did a great job in covering them. That's one half of the portion, and the University of Vermont's kind of like the biggest thing in town here.
Yeah,
So that's definitely a part of it. But I've really taken a liking to telling these unique stories, and I couldn't tell you a favorite story whatsoever, but some of the examples are like there was a over the summer I did a story on there was a golf course around here, the PGA Pro golfed 100 holes in a day to raise money towards a couple different cancer organizations because his wife had cancer and had benefited from a couple of these organizations. So, that was an awesome story to be able to tell something that a lot of people probably wouldn't have known about if we hadn't highlighted it. And he was great, and of course it was a terrible weather day, it was rainy. I think I had to like wring out every part of my clothing after the day because it was sopping wet on the course. But that's one of those stories where not only was I really happy with how it came together, not only did I think it was a really unique story, but it's really fulfilling. And at the end of the day, that's why we're in it. We're in it to tell people stories. So uh, I realized I did not answer your question whatsoever of one single moment that kind of stuck out. There's just too many
that's
to highlight,
okay.
and plenty more that I could go on and on about some of the cool things that I've been able to do here. But I think the storytelling aspect and being able to tell people stories is kind of the one thing that I've loved more than anything else, and will continue to do as I progress in my career.
That's awesome. So I was actually going to ask you another question about progressing in your career. Do you have any specific goals or aspirations for your future, or do you plan on staying at NBC, or can you not answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know when when I first got into this as a student, it was oftentimes a common question like, where do you really see yourself ending up? Like, where do you want to strive for? Um, and for me, it was always about what I grew up as a kid watching. So, like one show, for example, that I've watched since I was a kid and continue to watch is College Game Day on Saturday mornings.
Yeah,
Um, so my answer to that question, I was in college, was always like, oh, I'd love to work on that show. I'd love, to be an interviewer and interview the biggest people and work on the biggest broadcasts. And I think a lot of those goals are still, similar for me. But I think it's one of those things where it's ever evolving. You know,
sure.
Prior to moving to Vermont, I had never been to Vermont in my life. It was a, you know, big risk in that way because I didn't know anybody here. I'm from the Midwest. So it's, not necessarily a place I was super familiar with at all. I've
Yeah,
come to love it here. The people here are amazing. I love the people I work with. I love what I'm able to cover. So I think that's one thing that I think about when I look at the arc of my career
yeah,
is that I do have places I want to get, uh, but it's all about enjoying the ride along the way. Because if you're too focused on the thing that's 10 steps ahead, you're not even going to make it 3 steps ahead. So yeah, that's kind of like where I think about where my career is currently at. And, I'm as excited now as I've ever been, which I think that's really the key is maintaining that excitement, that joy, that passion
yeah,
for this gig. Because again, it's hard to break into. It's long days. It's inconvenient hours. But when you love what you do, that doesn't matter.
yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with, um, you know, my current career, and I really enjoy, where I'm at right now, and think I'm headed in a good direction.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, keep up that passion, keep up that excitement. And I have one more question for you before I let you go. What do you believe has been the biggest challenge in your career thus far?
Oof. Biggest challenge in my career thus far. That is a very good question, Riley. There are a lot of things, like I mentioned, moving to
Mhm.
a new place, like that provides some challenges. I would say challenges in a good way, like it's forced me to grow.
Yeah,
And I've learned of a new place that will forever be in my heart, that I didn't know prior. So I think that's a challenge.
yeah,
Um, I think the biggest challenge though is when you're going into sports broadcasting, and this is something that, I've encountered from the moment that I stepped foot on campus at Syracuse.
yeah,
There's a lot of things that will try to stand in your way, um, towards achieving your dreams. And this isn't to say, um, like, not in a negative way, but it's a very competitive business. You know, again, you have to sacrifice a lot. I don't get to see my family as much.
yeah,
Don't get to see my girlfriend as much. And so I think those have been some of the biggest challenges, is just the why and maintaining the why. Because if you can't maintain the why, um, then it's going to be difficult to enjoy the work and also perform your best. So for me, it's kind of just been balancing, you know, everything else I got going on in my life, and the job. And I think, up to this point, I've done a tremendous job. And again, I think, having the same passion for this now than I did when I started has been a huge, huge key, and not really being phased by any of the roadblocks along the way, because they will come.
yeah.
So, I think that's the biggest challenge, is kind of just powering through, uh, staying persistent, just keeping the head down, keep working. I think that's been, something I, especially like when I was in school, I had encountered, because you're like, whoa, this is competitive. And there are a lot of people that are good at this job. But you can't let that deter you, because if people put the work in, they can also be good at this job. So yeah, I think that's been one of the biggest challenges that I've overcome to this point. Um, and kind of continuing to go that direction. But it's a fun ride, it's a fun job, and I truly couldn't be happier, with where I am right now.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that was a great response, and I'm going to take that piece of advice with me as I further my career and my sports journey. Well, thank you so much, though, and congrats again.
Appreciate it, Riley.
Thanks.